never ever have enough time to play at all. You know everybody wants to walk in someone else's shoes. Everyone's forgot who they are. Such a grind.
Welcome back to the Otter Creek in Rio Grande, and I'm picking up right where I left off on the latest video that dealt with Twin Creeks Divide. So, as mentioned, I want to figure out what is going to take place here. I need to connect this foam and the foam in here, and then also make a final decision on the overall height of the foam, in this area. Now, if you're wondering why am I using foam here, predominantly versus cardboard strips and plaster, it's because I kind of envision all of Maroon Creek to be maybe a greener version of Colorado than is typically represented in a model railroad. So I want the ability to plant a lot of trees in here if so desired. So I think that's the next thing on the agenda, is to kind of work in this area, build up this side of the scene with foam, and kind of figure out the height and the shape through here. And, kind of the idea of the foam on this side versus the other side is that this is the wet side and the other side is the dry side, not to bring up orographic precipitation or anything like that into model railroading, but just kind of my own way of thinking of things. So I'm going to get started and we'll see where this goes. Getting much closer to the height that I want, and I'm liking this shape. I still think that before I get serious about carving, I'd like to add maybe 2 more inches. I'd like to be able to obscure all of Cloud City, and it just may not work out that I can do what I want to do here, just because. The closer you get to the forms there, obviously the higher it needs to be to obscure what's beyond. I'm never gonna get rid of the door, so I'm probably just maybe being a little obsessive about something that I don't need to be. So, and I have some shapes in mind. I'll go ahead and probably throw some pictures up there Not that I think that I can pull off, the exact topography that I have in mind, but it's just going to be a matter of carving away, hopefully, what I don't want and ending up with something that's passable. So we'll see what happens next. I added, I think, another, 3 inches to the main base layer. If we're just talking about up to here, I think I added 3 extra inches, and then, I've got all of these other things here that are just kind of, I guess, literally icing on top of the cake. Now, I know you're probably looking at this and going, man, it ain't ever gonna work. What the heck is he thinking? And you might be right. I would say standing here right now, I'm having a difficult time seeing exactly what I want. I have an idea. It's going to be a challenge to do what it is I want to do, but I am up for it. And I figure the worst thing that could happen is that once I start carving, it's going to be a subtractive method, right? I'm going to be chipping away at this, trying to make it look like something that is believable in nature. So, if that doesn't work, if I can't get there, then I will, I think I have a couple of options. One is just to start removing some of the stuff from the bottom if I like what I've got going on at the top. And then if I can't get there by doing that, then, maybe it will be cardboard strips and plaster cloth. Now, before I begin, trying to chip away, the idea, of course, is to have everything here in front of me that I'm going to be working on, because, what takes place down here may affect what happens here and vice versa. So I want to have all of it available for me to stand back and look at as I do. So I want to focus, at least at the beginning here, this video, in this area. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm looking at there, and maybe some of it will make sense. On my way to work every morning, I go through an area called the Glass Mountains, which it's not to say that they're actually mountains. The topography in the area that I drive through is primarily, I guess you'd say, mesas. That type of area is what I go through. A lot of canyons and things like that. But this particular area, and this is taken from Google Earth, and so it's from the perspective of the highway pretty much. And to me, it's very striking for a number of different reasons. There's just a lot of lines. We've got this road that comes up, and then you've got an area here. I think that road wraps around and comes through this way, and it also continues further off the scene. But you've just got a lot of different converging angles that is pleasing to the eye. It's complex, and I just think it's kind of a perfect model railroad scene if you could pull off this. And then here is more of a downward view. It's not completely down, it's canted back a little bit, so you can kind of see, one of the roads goes up here at a very steep angle, and then this one goes off that way, and then you can see it come back this way. So what I want to do is I want to take this general shape, and the shape I'm specifically looking at is the following of this ridge line. So that general shape, along with hopefully the road and then the different elevations that occur within it, because you've got this elevation that comes up, you've got some cliff faces here, some cliff faces here. This is kind of a little tabletop there. All of this is a pretty big cliff face, and then you've got all these trees right in here. Now these aren't tall trees, but I would call them scrub, I think is probably the best way to look at it. What they might be on the railroad might not be the same thing they are here, but that's what I'm gonna try and create in the area this side of the tracks as it exists here in Maroon Creek. So that's what I'm going to try and do. And then, you know, kind of once I kind of have that, you know, can I, you know, this particular shape here, kind of what I have in my mind right now is that road that runs through here would be an equivalency of the track as it comes around, and then it, you know, it breaks off and goes into the bulk oil dealership, and then, you know, swoops around into the town itself or in the area. This, if I can work it out to where something like this actually connects to the great big column of styrofoam that I've got there, you know, can I blend this shape into the shape that I've already got and make it look natural? That's the goal. We'll see how this works. Just a little in progress. I like the way it's turning out so far. Now, because I don't have, you know, the same depth of the scene that obviously the picture has, I've made a few compromises, some compression of the scene itself. So the The way the road lays in here is going to be a little bit different. I left the other piece out there, but you know, I'm going to come in with something on top here to kind of help with that. Now, this shape right here is kind of the thing that I'm looking for, and it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but you know, you've got a terrace effect of different elevations there. So I think, get some of these pinkies out of the way. I need to come in here and kind of create that. Back in that area, kind of remove all of this and then, you know, kind of terrace it in there in a way that then I can have a little more stair stepping in here, some place for some scrub brush. And then, you know, the other thing is the road. And, you know, if we tried to do the same thing that's going on up in here, the road would need to turn and come in through here. And I kind of gave up on that idea. So I'm considering that the road will probably come in across here and then go on across over there. My whole arm's probably in the way. But it's just a matter of working on it a little bit at a time. I can tell that I need to remove probably most of this area in here still. And then these two will probably go all the way down to the plywood. I'm just gonna keep working on it a little bit at a time. And you know, the key in my opinion is not removing too much material all at once, because you know, you can't easily put it back on, at least not if you're doing little chunks like this. So I'm going to keep chipping away at it quite literally. all of the large cuts and, you know, the larger shapes are where they need to be, I think, for right now. And I'm fairly satisfied with the way it looks. Now, there's still a lot of work to do in all of this, you know, with sculpt-a-mold and other things to get its final shape and color, which, you know, is yet to be determined. But I feel pretty good about the way this is looking. And so the next trick is to kind of try and figure out what's going to happen over here on this side. And I think to come to any kind of conclusion about what is going to take place here, I need to get some fascia put in. So I think that's the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit of bench work, fascia type things, and probably put in an 8-foot piece in this area with the center of it right in here somewhere, so I can figure that out and continue on with more foam work. I really like the way the fascia makes this area look. It's starting to get that finished feel to it. So much so that it's almost inspiring me to clean. So, you know, what I've got left is to come in here and kind of notch out what doesn't need to be there to reveal the work that I've already put in on the foam. Now, I don't think that I'm going to mess with any of that in this particular video, because that's going to be a lot more involved than what I've got time for now, because I think we're pushing 30 minutes as far as the video goes. But I've got the fascia all the way. I got another 8 feet going this direction, but I'm going to have to do some work with it because it's hiding the track, and I don't want to look down into the scene there. So I'm going to have to do a little work there. I've got this corner right here that's needs to be figured out what I'm going to do there. And then I've also got this corner here where my iPad is. So I think that's all I've got time for in this particular video. Lots of stuff coming forward. Now, I think I'm going to take a break from producing any video in October. I think I'm going to take the whole month off, unless I happen to have some stuff already in the can I might put out just for fluff. But I think I need to do a lot of things around the house and some stuff that I've been putting off for a while. So I'm not going to quit working on the railroad entirely. I'm just going to shift a focus, where I'm normally doing things, 2.5 days in the railroad room, where I will not put near as much time in here as opposed to some things on the outside of the house and maybe even on the inside of the house. So we'll just have to see what takes place in October. Just don't expect a whole bunch of videos to pop up from the Otter Creek and Rio Grande, but we will certainly see you around starting for sure in November. Thanks for watching.